If your dog pulls on the leash every single walk, you need to stop right now, because you're about to see why that habit is silently damaging their throat, their spine, and even shortening how many years they'll be by your side. I'm going to show you the exact moment, frame by frame, where a normal walk turns into an injury waiting to happen. And by the end of this video, you'll know the exact adjustments that fix it, step by step, starting today. But first, let me show you what's actually happening under that collar every time your dog lunges forward. Here's what most owners don't realize. Every time your dog hits the end of that leash at full speed, the force on their neck isn't small. It's the equivalent of a sudden jolt multiplied by their body weight and speed. Vets call this repeated trauma, not from one walk, but from hundreds of walks, week after week, year after year. And the scary part? Dogs don't show pain the way we expect. They don't yelp, they don't limp, they just adapt. Which means you could be doing this for years without ever knowing the damage is building up. Stick with me, because in a few minutes, I'm going to show you several warning signs your dog is already showing you right now that most owners completely miss. I've spent the last few years researching how professional trainers and vets approach leash walking, and I kept seeing the same mistake over and over. Not just from new owners, but from people who've had dogs their whole lives. Let me tell you about one specific case that changed how I think about this completely. There was a dog whose owner walked him the same way every single day, never thinking twice about it, until one day the vet pointed out changes in his neck that had built up slowly over years, damage that could have been avoided with one simple change. And that's when I realized, this isn't about being a bad owner. Almost everyone does this. It's just that nobody ever showed us the right way. So today, I want to walk you through everything, not just the quick fix, but the full picture, so you actually understand why this happens and how to make sure it never happens to your dog. Let's start with the warning signs, because these are the clues your dog has been giving you all along. Sign number 1. Coughing or gagging sounds right after the leash goes tight. That's not your dog being dramatic. That's direct pressure on the trachea, the same feeling you'd get if someone pressed on your own throat. Sign number 2. A hoarse or raspy bark that seems to come and go, especially after walks. This can be a sign of repeated pressure on the voice box over time. Sign number 3, and this one most people completely miss. Your dog licking their lips or turning their head away when you clip on the leash. A subtle sign of anticipating discomfort before the walk even begins. Sign number 4. Your dog favoring one side or seeming stiff in the neck and shoulders after a walk, even though nothing happened that day. And sign number 5, which is honestly the one that worries vets the most. A change in energy after walks. Dogs who used to be excited and playful afterward, but now just want to lie down and rest, as if the walk took more out of them than it should have. If you noticed even one of these, don't panic. You're not alone, and every single one of them is fixable with the right approach, which I'm about to show you. But before we get to the fix, I want to quickly explain why the collar and leash combination causes so much of this damage in the first place. Because understanding the why is what makes the fix actually stick instead of being just another rule you forget in a week. Your dog's neck contains the trachea, the esophagus, blood vessels, and delicate muscles, all packed into a relatively small, unprotected area. Unlike your own neck, which is somewhat used to a range of forces, a dog's neck is simply not built to absorb repeated sharp jolts. Every lunge forward, every sudden stop at the end of a leash, sends a shockwave through that entire area. Multiply that by 2 walks a day, 7 days a week, over the course of a year, and you're looking at potentially thousands of these micro impacts. That's not fear-mongering. That's just basic physics applied to a very sensitive part of your dog's body. Now here's some good news. This isn't about buying expensive equipment or hiring a trainer for months. It's about 3 specific adjustments that professional trainers use, and I'm going to walk you through each one in detail. Adjustment number 1 is position. Your dog's shoulder should line up with your leg, not ahead of you, not behind you. When a dog walks ahead, they naturally build momentum and pressure against the leash with every step, even if they're not actively pulling. Positioning them beside you removes that built-in forward pressure before it even starts. To practice this, start indoors or in your yard where there are no distractions. Hold a treat at your side, at your dog's nose height, and take a few steps while they stay in that position. The moment they stay lined up with you, mark it with a word like yes and reward. This feels slow at first, but it's building the exact muscle memory that makes real walks easier later. Adjustment number 2 is pace. Most owners unconsciously match their dog's rushed pace instead of the other way around. Every time your dog speeds up and you speed up with them, you're teaching them that pulling ahead gets rewarded with forward movement, which is exactly what they want. Instead, the walk should move at a calm, steady rhythm that you control, not your dog. If your dog speeds up, you simply slow down or even stop completely. Standing still, saying nothing, and waiting for the leash to loosen on its own teaches your dog that pulling literally gets them nowhere, while a loose leash is what makes the walk continue. Adjustment number 3 is correction timing, and this is the one almost nobody gets right. The goal is to notice tension building in the leash before it becomes a full pull, not after your dog is already lunged. Think of it like catching a wave just as it starts to rise, instead of waiting until you're already underwater. The moment you feel that first hint of tightening, that's your cue to slow your pace. Redirect your dog's attention with your voice or a treat, and reset the position calmly without yanking or jerking the leash. Now, I know what a lot of you are thinking right now. My dog will never walk like that. They're too excited, too strong, too stubborn. Trust me, I've heard this from so many owners, and I thought the same thing myself the first time I tried this process. So let me walk you through exactly how the transition works, step by step, so this actually works even for the most determined pullers. Start in the lowest distraction environment possible. Your living room, your backyard, an empty hallway. Practice the position and pace exercises there first, with zero outside stimulation competing for your dog's attention. Once your dog can hold position and pace reliably indoors, move to a quiet street during a low-traffic time of day. Keep sessions short. 5 to 10 minutes is plenty at this stage. As your dog becomes consistent in that slightly more distracting environment, gradually introduce busier streets, other people, and eventually other dogs. The key word here is gradually. Rushing this process and throwing your dog into a busy park on day 1 is the single most common reason people think this method doesn't work for their dog, when really, they just skip the steps that build the foundation. Now, here's where almost everyone goes wrong, even after learning the right technique. And this mistake alone can undo every bit of progress you've made. When their dog does pull, the instinct for most owners is to yank the leash backward, hard, all at once. It feels like the natural response. Your dog moves forward suddenly, so you pull back suddenly. But this actually works against you. A sharp backward correction spikes tension in exactly the area we're trying to protect, and it often makes dogs tenser and more reactive on future walks, not less. So pay close attention to this next part, because it's the difference between a method that works and one that quietly makes things worse. The correct approach is a gentle, steady redirection, turning your body slightly, applying calm and consistent pressure rather than a sharp pull, paired with immediate praise the moment your dog responds correctly. Consistency here matters far more than intensity. 100 small, calm corrections will get you further than 5 hard yanks ever will. Let's also talk briefly about equipment, because the right tool makes this whole process significantly easier, even though it's not a magic fix on its own. A well-fitted harness that clips at the front of the chest rather than the back naturally redirects a pulling dog back toward you instead of letting them drive forward with their full body weight against their throat. This doesn't replace training, but it does reduce the physical strain on your dog's neck while you're working through these steps, which is especially important if your dog already shows any of the warning signs we talked about earlier. I also want to address a common myth I see repeated constantly in comment sections. The idea that a dog needs to pull because they're just naturally strong or excited, and there's nothing you can do about it. This simply isn't true. Pulling isn't a fixed trait. It's a learned pattern, built through repetition. Just like the loose leash walking we're teaching now is also a learned pattern. Every dog, regardless of breed or personality, can learn a calmer walking pattern. Some dogs just take longer, and some need more patience along the way. But the underlying method works the same way for all of them. Let's quickly recap everything we covered today, because there was a lot of information, and I want to make sure it actually sticks. We talked about why repeated leash tension causes real cumulative damage over time, even if your dog never shows obvious pain. We covered 5 warning signs to watch for: coughing or gagging, a raspy bark, lip licking or head turning at the leash, stiffness after walks, and lower energy following walks. We walked through the 3 core adjustments: position, pace, and correction timing, and exactly how to practice each one. We covered the gradual transition process, moving from low distraction environments to busier ones. And we talked about the single biggest mistake: sharp backward corrections, and what to do instead. I've heard from so many people who tried this and saw a difference in the very first walk. No more sore arms, no more coughing dog, just a calm walk by your side. And for the dogs who take a little longer, that's completely normal too. Give it 2 to 3 weeks of consistent practice before expecting the full change. If this helped you, the best thing you can do is try the very first adjustment, position, on your next walk, today, not next week. Small, consistent practice beats waiting for the perfect moment every single time. And if you want the follow-up video where I break down exactly what to do if your dog is reactive toward other dogs on walks, which is a completely different challenge with its own specific method, that video is coming very soon, so make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss it. Before you go, there's one more thing I didn't mention yet, and it's honestly the biggest mistake I see in dog parks every single day, something that undoes months of good leash training in a matter of seconds. I'm covering that in the next video, and trust me, you'll want to see it before your next walk.